This is the True North Collective podcast, a gathering of unsugar-coated conversations on authenticity, created by the real-life documentation of everyday humans fearlessly finding their true north.
Welcome to Season 3 of the podcast.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm learning to embrace and celebrate my feminine magic. My go-to MAC lip color is matte, all fired up. And I got 3 new tattoos in the last week.
Hi, I'm Yvette. I'm a type A OCD control freak in recovery, thanks to my yoga teacher training. I have met 2 presidents, and I've traveled to 6 continents and lived in 3.
Hi, I'm Jenell. The lead singer of Weezer's dad was once my tour guide. I'm a very anxious host, and I have a receding hairline, but it's more extreme on one side than the other.
And we are your host of the True North Collective podcast.
What 2 presidents did
Is
you
it
meet?
Rivers Cuomo?
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. I'm all like, what? The lead singer, but it's Rivers Cuomo, right?
I don't know what you're saying.
Okay, it's fine. I'm gonna
Wait, what are
Google
you
it.
talking
What 2
about?
presidents? let's just ask about her question.
Wait, is
what
Rivers...
2 presidents did you meet?
Wait. Is Rivers Cuomo a band?
No, the lead singer of Weezer. I can't say his name
How would
right.
you even know that?
Joe would know. It's like his favorite band.
Rivers Cuomo. I think that's how you say it. Anyway,
Rivers Cuomo?
Cuomo, like with a
Cuomo.
C. Cuomo. I'm so bad at pronouncing.
We need the phonetics. Oh, here. It's Cuomo. I just looked it up.
Cuomo.
Cuomo.
So I was like, I'm going to just say the lead singer. Anyway, what presidents did you meet, Yvette?
I have met the president of Uganda and President Obama. I went trick-or-treating at the White House.
What?
Oh, yeah.
It was so epic.
What did you dress up as?
It was amazing. We were like a pirate family. I was kind of like a pirate gypsy. My husband was a pirate, and our son, who was like 10 months old at the time, was a parrot. It was like the cutest thing.
That's so cute.
You guys are like big Halloween people, aren't you? Because I feel like you always have the best fun, like family costumes every year.
I love Halloween. Yeah, it's pretty great. I'm a little concerned about this year because I don't know what like social distancing Halloween is going to look like. Like we're just going to trick or treat in our backyard.
Holy shit.
I already am thinking about this. This is how obsessed I am. Yeah.
You could go in like a bubble or like a space suit or
and like not get anything from anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, duh. I'm thinking about the costume.
It's like you need to get your own.
Like something safe.
It's like you need to get your own big bin of candy and then Zoom. And then every time your kids go to a person's house, quote unquote, through Zoom, you throw some candy in there.
Oh, that's good.
It's sad.
Yeah,
it's like terribly sad.
All over the place. Yeah.
Oh, that would be sad. You could I would be a person you could call to Zoom. You can ring my virtual doorbell.
Oh, thanks. I told you.
It's so weird. I don't even know what month it is. I forgot that there are other, that's so fucking crazy.
Well, equally as shocking, 4th of July is next week.
I know. I'm actually nervous about that because I think people in Dallas are just not going to care. Yeah. What was your best Halloween costume?
Oh gosh, there has been so many. Most recently, like the family costumes. I can't really like talk about college costumes because they're not very appropriate. But
well, now I want to know.
I mean, we love inappropriate, but to your comfort level.
My like college friends equally loved. I think we were like Halloween soulmates because we all equally loved Halloween. So every year we did a group costume. It was amazing. But last year we were a family of sloths, and that was super fun, except for when we tried to start walking like sloths. It only lasted about 5 seconds because walking really slow for an extended period of time is so annoying and it gets old really fast. But it was tons of fun. Actually, the 5 of us, my mom, my husband, and our 2 kids.
I love that.
I've never done a group costume.
What?
And I've always wanted to.
Janelle, come to Dallas. Come to
apparently.
Dallas. Come to Dallas and we'll do a group costume.
Can we please? I don't even know if I've done a couple's costume.
What? Do you like Halloween?
I love Halloween.
What the fuck,
but
dude?
we haven't really celebrated it.
Dylan said this morning that you should just move to Dallas and live in our living room. And then you could be a triple Halloween costume with us.
Yes! I mean, I was thinking that with all my plans right now, and especially potentially the delay of some things in my life, I'm like, maybe I'll just like fly down to Dallas.
You should.
Oh, you guys got the
Dude, do it.
COVID, but I would still do it.
Oh yeah, we do. Not personally,
I
but
love
we
that
do have
Dylan
it.
loves me too.
Dylan
Yeah, I know you guys
always
go to
is
Dallas.
like, just tell her to quit her job and move in. I'm like, okay, I can.
Okay, can I tell you that I think I'm the kind of person, like, I love third wheeling it with couples. Like, I mean, sometimes, yes, it's like, okay, I want to be in a couple, but like, generally, I'm like, I love going to other people's houses. I love, like, come on, come join. And they cook me dinner, and I'm just like, yes, it's the best.
I mean, it's kind of the perfect scenario because, like, Dylan loves being friends with girls, and we're friends. It's, like, literally the perfect thing. So,
There you go.
we just gotta make it happen.
Oh,
What's the
all right.
weirdest
See you in
costume
a
you...
couple of weeks.
Yeah, what's the weirdest costume you ever had? I bet you came up with something weird.
Me?
Yeah.
Ooh.
An
This wasn't
eyelash.
actually a Halloween class. Actually, okay, if I tell you my idea, I have an idea for a Halloween costume this year, but I don't know if I want to say it publicly because someone will steal it.
Oh,
So
yeah,
I
don't
wanna
do
just,
that.
like,
Don't do that. I've made that
I
mistake before.
have a really good idea for this year. But this was not for Halloween, but we did themed socials all the time in college, so we basically dressed up all the time. And I was photo ones from like Nintendo and 64. That was one of my favorite ones, and I made my own styrofoam like mushroom top that I wore out of stuff in the craft store, and I like cut up a t-shirt and I had a little vest, and I was super adorable. But then I went to the bars and everyone tried to touch my toad head, and it was very uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, don't touch me. But it was a great costume. What about you, Rachel?
I've had a lot of doozies over the year. The one that came to me first was when I was a kid. I feel like I've said this on the podcast before, but I was
I think you have.
Yeah, I was a serial killer. So I was in a cornflakes box. I painted the cornflakes box, and then I opened the door and then had like a fake like gun. It's terrible, right? I was crazy. But I wanted to be a forensic psychologist when I was a kid and on the bomb squad and stuff. So I was kind of a weirdo. But then one year, my parents I don't know why they decided to visit for Halloween. It's kind of weird. I was in Minnesota, and I convinced...
college? Oh.
No, after. But I convinced all of them, my boyfriend at the time and them, to be Full House characters. So I had a little Michelle doll, and I was Uncle Jesse, and then they were each like different characters. That was pretty fun.
That's amazing.
That's
I've
so
always
fun.
wanted to do the Mystery Gang from Scooby-Doo. I actually tried to get
that's a good
Learning
one.
and Development and Mindbody to do it with me because I love Scooby-Doo.
I love
That would be
dressing up.
amazing.
So do I. Why can't we dress up every day?
We can.
I think I'm going to
We
start.
totally can.
We can.
Totally can.
So I'm
No one's
doing...
stopping you.
I know. I'm doing this CTI course for part of my coach certification. Lululemon, as part of an internal Lululemon coach, that's the program that they want us all to go through. So I'm in day 2 of the 3-day course, the second chunk of it. And we had to, long story short, the resonant action that I came up with for myself today was in embracing my femininity, which is why I wrote that in the intro, was to dress up in my like sexiest outfit and go buy chocolate chip cookies from the grocery store. And so I put lipstick
love
on
this.
And I strutted my stuff down the aisle and, like, picked up a bag of cookies. But it sucks because you have to wear the mask, so the lipstick really couldn't be seen. But I forgot how good I looked.
It was for you.
It was for sure
I
for me.
love that.
It was awesome. Like, I was like, why do it? Because, I mean, you know me, Jenell. I'm pretty, like, a non-binary. Like, I'll just kind of, like, I don't know. I don't really embrace the real girly sides of myself, and I kind of like having a shaved head and stuff like that. And so I don't really spend a lot of time unless I'm going to, like, a wedding dressing up. But I, like, put that dress on, and I was just like, damn. And I could feel people looking at me, and I was just like, this feels good. And so I just was, like, owning it. It felt great. So, yeah, I say you can dress up whenever you want. I'm going to do that more often.
I feel like I would do that and wear heels and fall grocery store because the floors there are always so slippery. Were you wearing heels?
Well, that's the sad part. The people that are holding me accountable are going to be pissed because so much of my stuff's in storage. So I have these amazing clog high heels that have, like, rubbery bottoms so they don't slip. That's what I always wear to weddings. And I spent a dumb amount of money on them back when I was in advertising. They were like my dress shoes. But they're in storage. They're, like, at the very bottom. So I wore my Birkenstocks. I was like, Birkenstocks or Tevas? Those are my choices. So I had hoops in, my MAC lip gloss, or my lipstick. It was a matte MAC, just, like, popping. And this super tight short dress.
Just pop it. I love
Fuck. Oh my God. It was
lipstick.
so good.
Just pop it.
I'll send you guys a photo. It's good.
Yeah, well,
I've been thinking about the inadequate, like, how makeup and lipstick specifically is just not necessary anymore because everybody's half of their face are covered, you know. But yeah. Jenell, you could rock your lashes, and, like, that's all, right? Like, that's all people need right now. Like, because otherwise it just rubs off anyways. That
is true. I'm quitting lashes, though. Gasp. I'm done.
I'm glad. You look good with both. You look good with both, but I like you without them.
I am getting my eyebrows microbladed again, though, on Sunday.
Is that where they get darker?
Yeah, they just fill them in.
Yeah.
They're still done, but it's like a tattoo that fades every year.
Yeah.
So I'm still going to do that. It is like once a year. You could go, both times, I guess I've gone a little over a year, but it's like a year to a year and a half. You get it done. So worth it.
I have 90s eyebrows. Do you know what that means?
They're thin.
I overplucked them like every other person in 8th grade with me. Yeah, they really didn't ever grow back. It really sucks.
I've heard that from a lot of people. I'm glad that I was too young and came from a family that had no beauty standards. So, like, mine were just bushy and had nothing going on. I mean, they're still super light anyway, but we didn't really pluck our eyebrows. So.
Oops.
I don't think I plucked my eyebrows till college. So many things.
Now bushy brows are in.
That is true. And mine aren't that bushy anymore.
So funny.
That's okay. That's why it always just changes. Just go with the flow, right?
Yeah, exactly. You'll be it at some point. Just gotta wait it out, I guess.
That is kind of true, though.
I know.
I would like to think. Hopefully. We're all it all the time.
Well, pretty soon, thank gosh for this all this stuff that's going on. I do think that it's definitely starting to put a lot more visibility on normalizing the variety that's out there, which is so much more interesting. It's like, oh my gosh, it's people truly, in the last 2 weeks, I feel like I've seen more bodies and more versions of all of it, and like just how beautiful it is. Like, instead of seeing the same thing over and over and over again, it's like so permission giving. I mean, I felt so good putting that tight dress on, even though I haven't worked out in like a week, which is not that big of a deal, but you know, I have the conditioning. So yeah, it feels good.
Mm-hmm. I know, I'm proud of you when you said that, because I know about tight dresses and just like things to jump over, and I was like, get it, Rachel.
Yeah. There's this size 0 dress at Lululemon right now that would be so tight and literally would show off everything. And I've been like debating whether I should get it or not, because I don't want to just buy something to have it sit in the closet. But if I would genuinely wear it, like it'd be a fun summer thing. It's got like a shelf bra in it, so I don't even have to wear a bra. That'd be amazing. So I'm gonna flip a coin.
Lululemon dresses are like the best.
I know. But it's a size 0, and I'm not a size 0. But it's on sale, so it would be like cheaper, and it's stretchy.
I feel like I do that all the time. I'm like, this isn't my size, but it's on sale, so I'm gonna figure out a way to make it work.
I know. Oh boy.
One time, my mom does this thing where sometimes she'll buy herself presents for us to give to her, and you can't see me rolling my eyes, but I am. And one year, she bought herself a sweater, and then I don't know if she had my sister give it to me or something. And then like someone just was like, "Oh, this is for Mom," and I thought it was mine. And I showed up like a couple weeks, I think it was for Christmas, before Christmas, wearing the sweater, and she's like, "You know, I bought that for you to give to me." And I was like, "Oh, it makes sense why it wasn't my size." And like here I am in this like oversized sweater that I thought was super cute. And my mom bought it for herself.
Oh my God, I love that.
I was like, whoops, and I still have it, and I still love it. But I'm like, I'll make this work. I was like, whatever, it's not my size. I still like it. Yeah. All right, shall I introduce our third voice?
Let's do it.
Before we introduce Ivette, Rachel and I are putting out the call. We're looking for guests to come on the True North Collective podcast for late 2020 and early 2021. If you are interested or you know someone that you think would be a great fit, please send us an email to hello@thetruenorthcollective.org for more information. All right, let's get back to the podcast.
Cool. So we have Ivette on the line, and I know Ivette from my time at Mindbody. Ivette has such an amazing background. I mean, from the time I met you, there's this knowledge, professionalism, poise, but then also this very like relaxed, open-minded side to you that I've always really appreciated, because I think I play in that duality quite a bit too, where I'm like, okay, I know I can come to Ivette and she's going to have these great ideas. And in a professional sense, it's like very natural, and like we can create all these things. But then at the same time, like you're the same type of person that I could always go to and just have like a very real, down-to-earth conversation that I never felt judged when we were having it. So I've always appreciated that about you. But your background from a learning and development professional to working at Lululemon, to working for Disney, to being a mother of 2, marrying your soulmate, you have a master's degree in public health, and even on the side, you also are starting a low-waste journey, which people can follow at Moms Talk Trash on Instagram, where you're starting to do composting in your own backyard, which is amazing, especially as a mother of 2 and a professional and just like an outstanding human in general. So welcome to the podcast, Ivette.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for having me.
We're excited. I think I got it all. I'm like reading through. I'm like, there's so many things that I could say about you. So I'm like trying to keep it like I won't steal all your thunder as we jump into the podcast. But why don't you tell us in your own words a little bit about how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, thanks, Jenell. It's been a journey, right? Like we're all on. I was born in Mexico and I grew up in South Texas. and went off to college, like like so many people, and started discovering the outside world, traveled and studied abroad, and then eventually made my way out to California to come to quote unquote, air quotes, grad school, but really the love of my life was out here. And although I would never admit that I was moving across the country for a boy, and he eventually became my husband, so it worked out. But during that time, I studied public health and was really super passionate about improving the health of populations and preventing disease and promoting wellness, and doing some really incredible global health things. I worked in Africa and Asia and Latin America, and on the outside, it looked really, in a way, glamorous to be able to do all of these really amazing things with some incredible researchers and professors and global health professionals. And there was something there that just wasn't, that for me wasn't fulfilling me entirely. And then we had this opportunity, my husband and I, to move to Australia. And we had actually just bought a house in the Pasadena area, and we were telling ourselves we were going to settle down. And then this opportunity came up not a year later. And so we packed up our stuff, put it in our garage, rented our house, and moved halfway across the world, and had the most amazing, incredible time of our life. And I think we'd still be there. We loved Australia so much. I think we'd still be there if it wasn't so far away from our families, who we also love very much. But while we were there, it kind of gave me this opportunity to explore new things. And that's where I really got to know and I met Lululemon and all of its incredible people. I took a job working at one of their retail stores. And to most of the people who knew me at that point, that seemed really strange, something that I normally wouldn't do had we still been living in LA. I was working at the University of Southern California, managing the Institute for Global Health, and I took this job in retail, and it was because I was really inspired by what Lululemon was doing and how it invested in people and how it invested in people's development. And also, it was kind of this like long-term vacation that I felt like we were on. Like I had the opportunity to step away from the facade of my professionalism and do something that just really sparked my fire. And I was, just kind of unapologetically just doing something that I was taking this risk on. And it just paid off so much because I grew incredibly from it. I started my learning and development career there, learned from like what I considered to be the best of the best, and met best friends that, will last a lifetime. And then we, traveled and did all these amazing things, and then came back. And that transition back was tough. But, every stage we've learned something new. And now we're living, and it sounds so cliche to say this, but we're living our vision. Like we set this vision to live in Santa Barbara. And it was always kind of a 10-year vision. It was out there really far away. And late last year, we just said, like, screw it, let's just do it now. And we did. And we're here. And so now I have two amazing kids. Like you said, I'm married. I really do feel like I'm married to my soulmate, and we're just incredibly grateful to have and be around family that we love, and we're here.
That's awesome. Okay, this has nothing to do with what we're going to talk about today, but I get really curious. How do you know that someone is your soulmate? Like, what does that feel like?
So, I mean, I can tell you, and I know that's not what we're talking about today, but it's kind of, it feels just like incredibly like you're home, like you're just, your home. You don't have to hide anything about yourself. You can be completely open and vulnerable, and there's this feeling of safety and like a lot of fun. And since the day I met Joe, like I have laughed every day. And yeah, there's this other kind of really weird story that I will tell you guys because I feel like you might appreciate it.
Love stories.
I went years ago when I first started my yoga journey. I went on this yoga retreat and met this incredible healer teacher who practices a lot of energy healing and Reiki. And after the yoga retreat I went on, I had this life-changing experience. And then I later took Joe. We were already married at the time. We took Joe to have a healing session with this man, and he did a Reiki session for Joe, and then he did one for me, and then we came together and talked about it. And so something that, the listeners probably don't know, and Rachel, I don't know if you know, but Joe is in a wheelchair. He had a spinal cord injury in 2007, and was it 2000? Oh my gosh, 2009. I always mess up the date, but it's been about 11 years ago, and 2007. We got married in 2009. There you go. After you have kids, your memory becomes mush. So
yeah, I don't have that excuse, and it's still
so anyways, we had been together for a while, and we went to go see the healer, and he sat us down after our individual sessions and said, and so Joe had the spinal cord injury, and we had been on this healing journey together. We were together when it happened, and I think that brought us even closer together. And the healer said, you guys knew, and I don't know, you can believe what you believe about this, and it's kind of wild. He said, you guys knew each other in a past life. You were together in a past life. And I kind of, stared at him like, what are you talking about? It's so crazy. And he said, yeah, you guys knew each other and it didn't end well. And you, whatever happened, it didn't end well. And in this life, you chose to come together. You chose, both of you together chose Joe's injury, and as a way to bring yourselves back together and really solidify this bond that you guys have. And I have goosebumps just telling you guys a story.
I have chills right now too.
It's just like what? That is crazy, right? It just sounds like bananas. And then at this deep level, in my body and in my soul, I'm I believe that that's true. I can feel that. I can feel the truth in that. And it's just kind of I know not everybody finds their soulmate that way, but that's just kind of what, that's what it feels like for me.
Wow.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. My jaw is on the ground. What a powerful story. And no matter what anyone believes, it kind of doesn't really matter. If you feel it within you, that's all that really matters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you, when you guys first met, did you feel that?
So we actually, he was in my freshman year psychology class and he was in this group of cute boys, and we all kind of, my friends were oh, these cute boys, whatever. And we didn't actually meet until senior year in college, second semester. So we were about ready to graduate and leave, but we met randomly at a bar, and then we didn't actually start dating until after we graduated. And we started talking though, and every single conversation that we would have, it just was like a conversation I'd never had with anybody else before. And just like hours on the phone. Like I lived in Houston at the time. He was back in LA, and hours on the phone, just like laughing hysterically. And then like all of a sudden talking about something really meaningful and deep, you know? So I knew that there was something different. And my parents actually met him over graduation weekend, really randomly. Like we were walking across the quad and he was with his family and I was my parents, and we had just met. And my mom like said later, she was like, I knew when we met his family in the quad. I'm like, how do you even remember that? Like they met so many other people, you know? And she was like, I just knew that this guy was special. And so, yeah, I don't know.
Crazy.
It's kind of crazy.
Wow. Do you mind? And
Love.
You what?
Oh, sorry. I said I love. But anyway, what were you going to say, Rachel?
Well, yeah, totally that. And I mean, I think I appreciate that there's, I don't want to like qualify any of it, because no matter what it would be, for you to feel like you met somebody that you had that kind of connection with is beautiful. And I think it's like the additional depth and layers to it that aren't necessarily the rosiest is like, to me, that actually makes it seem more real for some reason. Not that it has to be that way to be real, but I appreciate the depth that exists there. And if you're open to me asking it, like how has your relation, I mean, obviously your relationship changes when somebody goes through such a change. And what has that experience been like for you? Does it even feel different? Does it feel very different? Did you have to like reconnect? And again, if this isn't a territory you want to go in, we don't have to go there, but I'm just fascinated. I've gone through really significant medical things myself, and I'm interested in the dynamics that come out of that for people.
Yeah, I think I'm happy to answer that. I'm an open book. I'm super transparent with stuff. But when Joe first got hurt, he's like, Jenell knows this, but he's like literally like a shining light of optimism. Like you cannot meet anybody more optimistic and positive than he is. It's like it's wild. And he got hurt. We were surfing. He suffered this like non-traumatic spinal cord injury that were like basically it took about 7 hours in order to like for the paralysis to set in over the course of the day. And so we were in the hospital. It was kind of this really surreal experience. And then, you know, we spent a few days in the hospital after he had become paralyzed in Hawaii. And then we got him transferred over to like a rehab hospital there before we could bring him back to the mainland. And it's like I tell the story all the time because it's just shocking to me that somebody has this like in them, just like inherently, naturally in them. He was in a like gurney, being transported in an ambulance from the hospital to the rehab center, where they had basically just told him like, it's going to take a while for you to walk again if you ever do. And they snap his photo as he's entering the rehab hospital, and he like shoots them like a shaka sign, like hang 10 with like this giant smile. And they take his photo for his file, you know, and everybody's like looking like, who's this guy? Like, what's happening right now? Because normally people who come here are not coming here for happy reasons, you know? And then I was actually in my grad school program at the time. And to me, it was like, there was actually no question. And I got a lot of different reactions from people and things, and like, oh, it was so inspiring that you stood with him, and you know, like, you're so amazing for doing that. And to me, like, my response was always like, that's not inspiring. That's just like, that's what you do when you love somebody, you know. You don't it's not like, I also understand that not all relationships are like that, and not everything works out when there is a traumatic event or a medical issue, right? Like, just because that happens doesn't mean you should stay with somebody. But for me, there was no decision to be made, if that makes sense. It was just kind of like, yeah, this is what we're doing. We're going to do this together, and we'll figure it out, and it's not to say that it's been rosy and easy. Like, it's been far from it. Super challenging, but I think the way he reacted to it and responded to every step of the way with his outlook that he has on life naturally just brought us closer together.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
It's hopeful in it's hopeful in what it is, but just even beyond that too, for me, what I'm taking away is just like the ability to just allow people's journeys to evolve, and to allow people to evolve, and to allow you to show up, and that there is no right or wrong, and we each, get to decide in each moment how we choose to be in each moment. And I don't know, it's a very gracious example of allowing yourself to be you and allowing somebody else to be them, and seeing where it goes from there. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thanks for asking the question.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, couple goals. In a sense, I just love, the concept of love. I love hearing other people share those types of love stories too, and like their own experience in love, just as like someone who's still, navigating what it's like to be dating and currently being single, and just like never, like, obviously I haven't been to that point where I felt that dedicated to someone, because here I am single. But it's always like, I don't know, I find it very reassuring whenever I hear someone say that story of like, it's sort of like there's this sort of knowing in it. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, one day, you can just trust that if it's meant to happen, like, it'll happen, and you'll just know. Because I know I can spin out sometimes. I'm like, what does love feel like? Is this love? And Rachel said the beauty in letting people's stories evolve, and not holding on too tightly necessarily to like our past versions of ourselves or our past versions of our partner, just being able to evolve and grow together, which isn't always possible, or people don't always choose to do that.
Absolutely. And I think too, like, releasing and relinquishing the control of what you want it to be, right? Like,
ooh, girl.
And when you've already like predetermined what it's supposed to look like, in your head, it just it never looks like that. And I just keep learning. That's a lesson I keep learning over and over. Especially now as a mom, like, whatever I plan or whatever I think it should be, or whatever, whether it was like my labor and birth, or whether it's an activity I'm doing. Like, I'm like, if I have a picture in my head and I want to control the outcome, it will inevitably turn into disaster. And I think the same goes for relationships, like, if you're controlling the situation or want it to be a certain way, but it's not flowing that way. And I know you and I, Jenell, have talked about flow in the past, and just like, if it's not flowing, it probably isn't, something's not right. And some adjustments or tweaks, and like allowing it to evolve without the need to control, like, then, and it starts to reveal what it's actually meant to be. And it's really hard for me to do that. It's like super hard for me, because like I said, I'm a recovering type A. And so it's a big challenge, but again, like, that's where I think my growth and my learning is to learn to continue to let go of that control.
You're sharing a lesson that I'm sitting in right now. Okay, say it one more time so I can hear. I was just telling Rachel, and I know about the story too, but when I took the job at Mindbody and like moved out to California, And really, honestly, like most of the things in my life that I ended up doing that were really impactful and meaningful, there was some sort of like ease. I mean, there's definitely effort too, but like it just sort of organically happened, right? It's like stars aligned and all of a sudden, boom, like you're there. And not that it wasn't like, like many times it was uncomfortable to get there or things had to happen, but like there was a sense of just like, yeah, letting go. And you're like, well, this is what the ride is. I'm going down the slide. There's no stopping now. And there are things that I'm shifting right now. And I keep saying to Rachel, I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm forcing it. And when I know I'm like trying to force what I'm doing right now, and like, I'm just going to take a step back and just let things play out a little bit more, because I can feel myself pushing, and then like the fight and the contrast and the anxiety and the things that just are like falling through that you want so badly to happen. And it's like, okay, these are all signs. If I just check in for a second, like take a step back, take a breath, and just let go of the plan, and one day at a time. So thank you for reminding me of that again.
Yeah. Well, I think there's such a difference between like intention setting and like setting your intention and your vision for what you want to happen, and then forcing it to happen, right? Like, and I always really believe in like intention setting and setting that vision and having the goals that you drive towards. But then allowing, one of my best friends in the world, I think, said this, right? Like you can go from A to C, and you don't always have to go through B, right? So the way you get there can be different, but if the like intentions are rooted in value and in something that you really like, that you really feel like it's what you want, then those are really great to have without forcing.
I was gonna say, even in that, like I love that analogy too, because a lot of the stuff that I'm pushing towards right now, like I think it'll happen, but we've talked about intuition and the clairs in the podcast before, and generally I say mine is a knowing, but lately like I'm actually hearing, I mean not actually hearing, I feel like I'm like hearing it in my heart, if that makes sense, words, and it's just like not yet, like that's what I keep hearing. I'm like, god damn it. I'm so impatient, but I know like if I pause and I stop, it's just like I can just hear not yet. I'm like, okay, it's not a no, but it's definitely a not yet. But what were you gonna say, Rachel?
I was gonna say the other thing that I've played with over the years, and I forget, and I have to come back to it, but when I'm controlling, I'm taking up so much space that nothing else can actually co-create with me. And so there's a lot of options that get steamrolled. And it's not even that I'm necessarily like aggressive or anything. I'm trying to control so many aspects that I've already decided what part everybody's going to play. And there's no breathing room for them to bring in some magical element that I never could have thought of. And when I am able to relinquish that control and recognize what I actually can control, and almost pull back my, I see it as like actually the energetic space that I'm taking up. And when I can pull it a little closer to myself and allow somebody else's energy to come forward, like whole new worlds open up. And I've been playing with that in my own relationship of just, I kind of got to a point where I was exhausted from controlling, and he never asked me to do that. I just did it because I had a picture in my head, and just like you said. And when I'm able to pull back and just recognize, like allow other things to co-create with me is the best way I can say it. The things that show up from other people is like beyond my wildest imaginations. And when that shows up, it gives me access to something. It's like I couldn't swing on the swing until the swing set showed up. But if I was, using that space for my jumping jacks and my somersaults, then the swing set could never show up. And then once the swing set showed up, it was like, holy shit, I can fucking swing and jump off the swing. And so, yeah, I don't know if that makes any sense, but that is like coming to life in my heart right now as we're talking.
Makes sense. I like the visual.
Yeah.
Should we switch gears?
Yeah.
I love this conversation. And thanks, Ivette, for being game to play on a topic that we've not.
Of course.
We were going to talk about. I did warn you. But one of the topics that came up, and when we originally spoke, it was around the concept of imposter syndrome. And back when we were at Mindbody, you had written a blog post that was shared around imposter syndrome and coming back from maternity leave and just having you were like having a child and like what that feels like coming back into the workplace. And I know that you and I, even last night when we were chatting, know that imposter syndrome extends way beyond that. But would you be willing to share kind of what that experience was like for you when it comes to imposter syndrome?
Yeah. So, you know, when I think about imposter syndrome, I think about like that feeling you get when I'm doing something and I feel like everybody's looking at me for something. And then I have like a high anxiety around meeting the expectations and fearing that they're going to find out that I'm like not as good as I think I am. And when we were talking about it a lot, you know, in preparation for the podcast, like I was thinking, I have so many examples of when this has happened to me in my life. Like, it's just like not just one, you know, it's just, I feel like in everything from like getting accepted into Notre Dame to like getting my, you know, going to grad school to getting my first like real job, to whatever it was, right? Coming back from maternity leave, there was always this feeling of like, oh, well, I don't really deserve this, or I'm sure somebody else worked harder, they should probably go. And this feeling of like a lack of worthiness for whatever I was actually receiving, even though like I've worked extremely hard and, you know, there are things that you would say like, yes, like those are well-deserved. There's this underlying feeling and tension within myself of like, oh, maybe, you know, maybe I don't actually deserve that, or maybe I can't actually do what they think I can do. And it really, you know, I think the most recent experience that I've had was last year when I came back to work after my maternity leave with my daughter, my second child. And I came back and I was, you know, balancing things at home, trying to be a mom of two, and then you know, still breastfeeding and, you know, now having a pump at work and coming into an office setting that felt familiar before I left. And then when I came back, it was entirely different. You know, I think anybody who works or knows the tech world knows that things change so drastically fast and things are really fast paced. And so when you're out for a few months, having a baby and then, you know, bonding with the baby and keeping the baby alive for several months with limited to no sleep, and you come back, everything looks so different. And I remember feeling like I came back to a different team, a different job, really. Like my job, kind of my role changed a little bit. And, a lot of the people on our team were different. And then I think even we were sitting in a different place, Jenell, right? Like we were
always
everything, like always, like everything was changed. And then I was also a different person coming back. And then there was this like feeling that I had, and I don't know if anyone really imposed it on me. It was just kind of a feeling I had of like, I expected myself and felt like others expected it of me to perform at the same level that I was performing before I went on my leave. And, you know, as you should, right? Like the business needs people to do that. But I was a different person, and I was coming into this new environment, and the team had evolved and had done such amazing things while I was on my maternity leave that I was kind of questioning myself in that environment, and this underlying fear of like not wanting anybody to know, right, that those were the feelings that I was having, because that, you know, that can show weakness, and that can show, oh, well, you know, reinforce beliefs people have of women who, professional women who go and have babies and come back to the workforce. And none of which, you know, I wanted for myself or for any of the other moms who were doing the same thing, you know, at the company or, you know, across the world. And so I lived in that for a while. I lived in that, you know, that fear and the anxiety, I think, for a while, until I kind of opened up through that article that I wrote, and you know, I was asked to write for the diversity and inclusivity kind of initiative, and it released this fear that I had. And then as soon as I opened up about it, so many people wrote to me, parents, people who weren't parents, moms and dads alike, like saying, like, you just described my experience, like, to the T. Like, I had that same experience when I came back, and you know, it was incredible to hear dad saying the same thing, and it was just this realization that I had that I think really motivated me to write it and put it out there, was that if we isolate and we're experiencing this feeling of like a lack of worthiness, or this insecurity and fear that what we're able to contribute doesn't meet up with expectations, even though we're still performing at a high level, like, there's a lot of isolation in that. And that I kind of figured, like, I can't be the only person dealing with this or experiencing this, and yet nobody talks about it, because it, you know, some people could say, oh, I'm ashamed of that. And I think I was at some point, for sure. But I think whenever there's shame around something, and like Brene Brown's like one of my favorite people, like, you know, when there's shame around something, then it just can collapse, right? It just collapses into itself. But when you're able to open up and be vulnerable about whatever is happening in the experience, you can start to pick away at the shame, and then you realize that you're not alone, and that other people, and like, I was, you know, was astonished to find out like how many people actually have this like imposter syndrome that I was feeling like I was experiencing as well, that we all have self-doubt, and so many people have negative self-talk, and these kind of similar feelings, regardless of what the experience is that brings those to the surface. And it just, I think it was an incredible outpour of support once I opened up about it.
Yeah, I remember reading that article, and not a parent, but also just being like, yeah, yep. I mean, I even remember running the fitness studio, and especially being so young, I don't know what, I was like 23 when I started that job, and just always feeling like a complete and total fraud. I was like, who am I to do this? I've never done this before. I'm 23 years old. I've basically kind of, you know, I had one real professional experience, 11 months maybe. I think I have 11 months of professional experience outside of college. And I'm like, someone's asking me to run a business. Like, who am I? And even in my younger 20s, and it's funny now that I'm getting closer to it, like, yes, I'm still very young, but like, I always wanted to be 30, because I thought, like, if I'm in my 30s, like, people will take me seriously. Like, I'll stop feeling like such a, you know, a fraud, or like I have to like prove myself, and that I am worthy, and that I am deserving of all these opportunities, and that I know things, and that I'm capable of. And for me, it it came with the age and the experience. I'm like, just be 30 and then then it'll happen. People will stop questioning you. And really, it was just like me questioning and doubting myself. And I'm sure other people did too. But I always felt like I had to be someone else to have people think that I was worthy of that role.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting that you attach the number to it, right?
Uh-huh.
Like you can, and that's kind of that, like, the safety net, right? In a way, like you can attach a number to it, you can attach a degree to it. I know, like for me, a lot of times when I'm trying and starting something new, I'm like, I don't have a degree in this. Like no one's going to take me seriously. Like that is what happened to me when I like transitioned from public health to learning and development. Like I didn't study learning and development. I don't have the methodology and the, that background. Like I don't have that degree on my resume. I can't, like, no one's going to think I can do this. And it's, it actually has nothing to do with that. It doesn't have anything to do with like the number, the age, the degree or qualifications. Like there's so many other ways for us to gain experience, to learn, and to be able to do. But that, like, that self-talk of like, I don't have, or like the not enough, right? And the lack of abundance is I feel like at part of the root of the feeling of a fraud, because you have to attach it to something. Like you collect evidence that you're right, that you're not good enough, or that you're not worthy because of X, whatever that excuse is.
I'm curious what your relationship to imposter syndrome is now, because it sounds like you have experienced it and you've digested it and come up with a point of view and shared and like almost like come out of the closet in a way with it. What does it look like now for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that, I don't know if it ever goes away, right? I think we kind of I start to notice the more work I do on myself and the more experience maybe I get with it, I start to know, if I'm tuning in, I start to notice it a little bit more. Like, why am I having that thought of that I'm not worthy of that opportunity? Or, why am I having that thought that I can't do that thing? Like, I notice it faster. So it's not that it doesn't like happen. That self-doubt, I feel like, is still there. And I think it's rooted in like deep experiences I've had in my life. And, that I could probably, if I sat in therapy, trace back to my childhood, or whatever it is. And yet I'm getting faster and better at asking the question, like, where is that coming from? And, sometimes it's maybe like, I actually don't know how to do that. Like, I think imposter syndrome, what it isn't is like saying, oh, I can do this thing that I actually have no qualifications for, right? Like that's not it. But it's like when you actually think you don't deserve something, or that when you get something, you attribute it to luck. And so I think for me, it's just that awareness around where is that feeling coming from? And this just, and I like, I have an amazing partner in life who is really good at checking me on it as well. And he always lives into opportunity. He's like Mr. Opportunity. So when I'm doubting, or when I'm squashing an opportunity because I, deep down think I'm not worthy of it, I have someone in my life who's really great at bringing me out of that, which I think is also really helpful. And that's what led us to live in Santa Barbara. Like, we made our 10-year vision our now vision because of that. Like, otherwise I would have continued to probably push it out 10 years and like, we can't do it for all of these, long list of reasons. But again, it was that I'm not worthy, or like that imposter syndrome of like, I can't live into that lofty vision because I actually don't deserve it, which is banana, like it's bogus, right? Like that's just like, I hear myself saying it out loud. I'm like, if my friend was saying that about themselves, I'd be like, stop that. Like, that's such negative self-talk, right? But that's what happens in my head sometimes.
So relatable, and just from the outside perspective too of working with you, because I've definitely have negative self-talk, and there's always the outside of experience of, to me, you have just such a natural talent towards what you are doing and development and supporting in your ability to have like a vision and like piece things together. It felt like such a natural talent. So it's always for me, because again, I have negative self-talk, a ton of it. Like I'm pretty sure everyone does. It's like crazy to think that you would have ever doubted yourself when, like, for me, I was always so assured of your abilities, you know. It's like that nice, it's nice when other people are willing to admit that, because you're like, oh, okay, I can have negative self-talk, but people can actually still believe in me, and I am capable.
Yeah. Well, it's that, it's shifting the belief, right? And that's the thing. I think with imposter syndrome, like from the outside looking in, you can prove accolades, you can prove accomplishments. And despite all those accomplishments, you kind of just brush them off as like, oh, I got really lucky with this opportunity, or, oh, that was just because of whatever X, and not really attributing it to your own achievement and your own success. And I got kind of snapped back into place by this like incredible person I worked with in Lululemon in Australia. His name was Trevor. He's like one of the most incredible people on the planet. And as I was leaving Australia, I had a very hard time leaving, because I just loved being there and loved my job and loved the people I worked with and loved our life there. I knew the right thing was to come back home. But when I was leaving, I said to him, I'm just feel so lucky to have met you and to have been able to work with you. And he turned around and was like, Ivette, that's not luck. Those were your choices that brought you here. And that, like, I hold on to that always, because that took something that I was deflecting on, like, it just so happened to be chance that I landed where I landed and had this incredible journey, when actually, like, it wasn't. It was deliberate and very deliberate choices that I made that got me there, and that led me to where I was then to where I am now. And it's really easy. And sometimes we kind of like, we paint it as humility, but it's not, right? We're deflecting the ownership of our choices when we do that. And when I always kind of like have Trevor in my head saying, like, that wasn't luck, those were your choices, I don't believe in luck. And then the ownership comes back to you. The ownership came back to me, and that, like, yeah, you're right, actually, like, I did that. And I think that was my wake up moment. And I use that as my anchor whenever that's starting to bubble up again for me. I go back to that.
I was going to say, when don't you experience imposter syndrome, and like, what's there that almost like blocks you from self-doubt? Like, how can you allow that voice to not impede? Is it choice? I don't know. Maybe it's not.
Yeah, I think it's confidence, right? It's like, it's choice and confidence. It's like acknowledgement of the things that I have done and what I have worked hard for. And this has only come like recently, I think, in my life, that I'm really owning that. And so when I now, and I'm actually like in the process of looking for new opportunities and kind of moving on to the next thing in my life, I feel a very strong sense of confidence that I can do it, and that I am worthy of it, which is very different from where I've been in the past.
Yeah. It's interesting because today in the training that I was in, we CTI uses the verbiage saboteur and inner leader, I think, which sounds kind of similar. I mean, this is a saboteur that's very specific to feeling like an imposter, but we can have saboteurs that show up many times when we go to take a step, and being able to recognize and put a face to, just like what you were saying, like put it out into the open, share it so that we don't self-isolate, and it almost becomes a life of its, or it gets a life of its own, and it gets bigger. But being able to just call it out and put a visual to it allows us to be able to recognize it as something outside of ourselves. And then on the flip, it's like tapping into that inner leader, that part of us that does make us feel confident. Because sometimes saying like, I want to be confident, at least for me, it can feel very like, yes, I do. And to connect to the experience of that can feel tenuous. And so it's been a cool exercise in recognizing what can I visualize that is within me, that is that saboteur, so that when it shows up, I can be like, oh, there's that fighter. There's that part of myself that actually can be great, but also can work against me. And when that happens, do I want to bypass it? Can I bypass it? Do I want to work with it? What do I do when I work with it? What else is here? So it's interesting, and that it never does go away, right? It's a part of this human experience. For whatever reason, I believe it's because we are here to be able to experience the fullest expression of life through, tangible life. And that includes all of it. That's not curated to only be the rainbows. That's the totality of it, which means that we also need to have the inner critic, because that is all of it in tangible form. So, yeah.
The idea of choice, I like you bringing it up here, because I've been playing with that even in the more negative aspects of life too, where if we're unhappy in our situation, like, yes, I do believe sometimes things happen and they can be out of our control, but generally the situations that we're in, they are due to choice, or maybe even the lack of choice, that we're not really like proactively leaning into something and we're just on autopilot. That has gotten us to where we are. But I like that.
Which
like,
is still choice, right?
Yeah, exactly. It is still choice. Yeah, like the lack of choice is choice. And I've been leaning into it in more like if I'm unhappy with something, rather than being like, oh, I'm a victim. It's like, okay, well, you made choices and decisions or that got you here. So you can make choices or decisions that can remove you from this. But I also like to call out too that a lot of times we diminish that, as you said, our accomplishments and say it's luck. But that is also choice, because I've done that before too. And I don't know if it was you, Rachel, or one of our guests that has worked with me has even called me out on that too, where I'm just like, well, I don't know, it just like happened. I was there and things happen. And you're like, well, you do things to make that happen. And I'm like, I guess I do. So it's nice to hear the balance of just like everything. It always just comes back to you, right? Your own decisions. I think we have more control in ways more than we believe, but at the same time there's that ease of letting go. It's just such a weird balance that I'm constantly playing with, like, how am I actively working towards my goals and making choices that lead me to those, but then also just not getting super attached to some outcome that is not yet determined. It's such a ugh.
Well,
yeah, it's like such a balancing act.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to tie it back to the conversation at the beginning, which I know didn't seem like there were dotted lines, but there totally are. Like that trusting in the evolving nature of us and the things around us is like a beautiful thing, you know, and to be yeah, I guess that, like, period. Like remembering that as it continues to evolve, like, can I dance with this right now? Allowing all the aspects of it to be here, and the parts that I chose that I didn't realize I chose, and the parts that I chose that I actually proactively chose, and that it got me here, and now this is where I am. And so I think the gesture at the beginning is like a good reminder of that ability to kind of just dance a little bit in the evolution of things.
Dancing with life.
Easier said than done.
Always.
Sometimes.
I know. I think I'm stepping on life's toes constantly right now. Oops.
And that's
or maybe
an
life is stepping on my toes. I don't know.
I mean, that's an experience to have too, though. I mean, you learn a lot from those times also. And I'm speaking to myself because, you know, it's like sometimes I can think to myself, what a waste of fucking time that I just like wasted all that time. But like, no, like all of it is worthwhile experiences to have. And we can, again, you have choice in how you look at it. Like I can choose to look at it as a wasted time and lean into like, okay, this is what it feels like to feel like I wasted time. What do I want to do with that? Like there's actually so much in all of it that we can take away. I find when I'm going so fast, it's hard to remember that. But when I can, there's like so much fruitful data, information, life in all of it that can be parsed out to learn about ourselves, to learn about life, to learn about each other. And I just want more of that. Because then it's like if I'm literally in this moment with that much openness to it, I can almost experience like a lifetime in just a minute. Like so much is there. And that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, I also like along those lines just so strongly feel that whatever is happening, like especially when we're going through like time of crisis or like a really challenging, difficult time, whether it's self-inflicted through these like limiting beliefs that we have, or actually like something external is happening that is making things incredibly difficult. And this is just like really true to me right now because we experienced a really tough, I mean, everyone's experienced a tough 2020, right? Like we can all agree on that. Last year, our family had a series of incredible challenges, and everything that happened seemed like really hard until the next thing happened that was like even harder. And in the moment, right, like it's hard to do this, but after a while we were kind of like, oh, like everything that's happening seems to be preparing us for the next thing ahead. And it, I think if you look back on life, you kind of start to see that the things that happen prepare you, like whether they're good or bad, challenging or welcomed in life, the things that you learn, if we can take time to reflect on them, they teach us such important things that actually prepare us to deal with the next challenge that might be even greater. And I think that awareness, then in a way tying it back to, imposter syndrome, is this feeling that I don't either know enough or don't have enough, or am I not good enough, right? Like if we can recall back the times when we learned something that's helpful in that current situation, or we overcame something that was challenging, whether in a similar way or a different way, that can help build that that confidence, or build the muscle to be able to deal with what's in front of you, and whatever it is, like the insecurity that you're feeling about that situation that's happening right now, like calling on those experiences and the knowledge that you've gained from them in the past help us, because those didn't happen like in jest, right? Those happened for a reason to really, I don't know if it's protection or just like to prepare us for what's ahead. And I don't know if if I feel, or if you guys feel like relief in that, or more anxiety. I mean, like, this isn't the hardest it's going to get, but don't worry, you'll be prepared for it when it comes. But like, I feel like that's very true for me in my life in the last couple of years.
I mean, sitting here,
feeling bummed.
It's interesting because, like, sitting here right now, I'm like, oh, I'm sure somebody has said that to me before. They had to have. But hearing it today, I'm like, oh, God, that feels good. Like, yeah, totally. It's those things that I went through totally prepared me for the things for right now. Literally what we're going through. Well, not literally. But, like, a lot of what we've been invited as a collective to step into this year, there have been facets of my life that I was like, whoa, this sucks. Like, this totally sucks that I have cancer. Like, this totally sucks that I had that happen in my childhood. And I mean, it wasn't an overnight thing that I could look at it as preparedness, but I had to have the space to feel my feelings in it. And I for sure can step into a space of, this is preparing me. Like, I love that invitation. It almost invites a celebratory nature to the times in our lives that are a little bit uncomfortable, or a lot. There's a conversation today that somebody was having where they're like, maybe one of my values is actually failure. And I want to celebrate and be a champion of failure. And it has a similar connotation to me of like, could you choose to have something like imposter syndrome be a value, be something that is like a oh my gosh, I can't use words. A necessity to prepare you. Like, maybe that's an indicator of like, I am being prepared for something. I don't know. I like the play on, I love getting curious and kind of figuring out if there's other doors to come into at things. And again, not that I really try not to just jump from the start line to the finish line, because the part in between is, I feel, very, very important. And this idea can be helpful along the way of not getting so wrapped up in the drama of the emotions around the pull downs that come with life inevitably.
I needed this conversation. I'm grateful for both of your wisdom and experiences and reminders.
Yeah, same.
Ivette, we always ask people at the end of the podcast if you could describe how you live your true north in one word, what would that word be?
My word is growth. And just, I think really recognizing that when things get hard, because like we've been talking about, inevitably they will, it's just always an opportunity and an invitation to grow.
Yes, it is.
I'm taking
2020, the year of growth.
The year of preparedness, man. What is this fucking preparedness for? I love
something big.
Something fucking big. Yeah.
Oh, Oh man. And then if anyone would want to follow up with you, reach out to you, continue the conversation, is there a good place or is that they would be able to do that?
Yeah, I think the best place would be on Instagram at Moms Talk Trash, and message me, follow. It's kind of a different journey I'm on my low waist journey, but it all ties in with self-improvement, trying new things and trying to reduce our family's waste one step at a time.
Yeah. I know. I feel like that's a whole nother conversation I would love.
Yeah, you're coming back on.
You. Mm-hmm.
I'd love that.
Moms Talk Trash. It's so good.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean,
a little surprise in there for you.
Yeah, you what?
I said there's a little surprise in there for you because we're talking about trash, but we don't trash talk anybody. So.
It's so good.
I love that.
Do you swear? Ivette, do you swear?
Oh, do I swear? I didn't hear that. I do. Okay. But it will come out when it feels really natural. Like I used to be a sailor, and I think now with kids, I censor myself a lot because anything I say will be repeated, like as if they're a parrot. So I have learned to censor.
Yeah, I love it.
That's a tough skill set. I was just around children last week, and I was like, oh, shoot, Jenell, don't open your mouth.
I mean, you can't even say shoot,
That's so
right?
funny that you say that.
I don't know.
Say that, Jenell, because my son, he says shoot all the time, and I actually don't know where he gets it from. Like, because neither of I don't think we use that word. And he's always like, he'll like drop something and be like, oh shoot, and I'm like, he's 4. It's really funny. I mean, it's better than the alternative. But
has Jai been listening to the Friday night Zoom calls? No, I don't think I censor myself on that. I'm just like, oh shoot. Yeah.
I think that's after bedtime, but yeah.
Well, thank you, Ivette. I am very grateful that you came on and had this conversation with us, and thank you for sharing everything.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. It's such fun. Nice to meet you too, Rachel.
Yeah.
This has been another episode of the True North Collective podcast. For more from Rachel and I, check us out on the gram at the True North Collective _. And if you liked what you heard, please consider leaving us a review wherever you are listening to this podcast. Until next time.